An evening at Blossom Beauty Lounge in Zapopan, Mexico, was supposed to be as ordinary as any other. Its owner, 23-year-old Valeria Marquez, a well-known content creator and entrepreneur, was hosting a live stream, talking about the latest trends and chatting with her followers. But in an instant, everything changed. Shadows moved in the background, and what had been a routine broadcast turned into the beginning of a story filled with mysteries, questions, and unspoken details. Valeria Marquez was born on February 23, 2002, in Guadalajara, Jalisco. From a young age, she was fascinated by the world of beauty and fashion, drawing inspiration from the striking looks of famous models and experimenting with makeup. Her passion for beauty and her drive to create something unique became a part of her personality, shaping her future path. By 2021, Valeria had achieved a significant milestone. She won the Miss Rostro pageant, which became a pivotal moment in her life. This victory gave her the confidence boost she needed and drew attention to her talent in the world of beauty and self-care. Winning the pageant opened doors to new opportunities, and her growing audience was eager to follow her journey. Ambitious and determined, Valeria decided she didn't just want to work in the beauty industry. She wanted to leave her own mark by creating her own projects and developing her own unique style. That's how she launched her very own beauty salon, a space that was more than just a place for professional beauty services. It was also a haven for her bold ideas, where she combined her love for makeup and self-care with her desire to help others feel confident and beautiful. Valeria didn't limit herself to working with clients in her salon. She also made the most of social media to promote her business and share her personal experiences. She posted short videos about her favorite makeup products, hair care tips, and glimpses into her everyday life. Her social media accounts quickly gained popularity, with her follower count climbing close to 200,000. Every post was a direct connection with her audience. Valeria's authenticity and down-to-earth approach resonated with people. She talked openly about her experiments, her missteps, and her successes, which made her more than just a beauty professional. She was someone who turned a personal passion into a thriving career. Her videos struck a chord because she didn't just show the final results. She explained how to achieve them, which products to use, and what to avoid. By the age of 23, Valeria Marquez was already a standout figure in the world of beauty content, seen as a role model for many. Her name had become synonymous with confidence and determination. But behind that image was a lot of hard work, daily dedication, patience, and the persistence to keep moving forward, no matter the challenges. Every morning, she opened her salon's doors, welcoming clients, filming short videos, and answering her followers' questions. On the morning of May 13th, 2025, the atmosphere at the salon was calm and routine. Clients were coming in for their usual treatments, and the staff were busy with their tasks. No one could have guessed that in just a few hours, everything would change completely. Later in the day, two men arrived at the salon on a motorcycle. One of them had his face covered and was holding a small package. Claiming to be a courier, he said the delivery was a special gift, meant only for Valeria. The staff, who were used to receiving deliveries for the salon, offered to take the package and pass it on to Valeria. However, the courier refused, insisting he would only hand it directly to her. This immediately raised some red flags for the team, but the men left quickly when they learned Valeria wasn't there yet. They didn't leave anything behind and vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. When Valeria eventually arrived at the salon, she had no idea about the earlier encounter. The staff told her about the two men who had been so insistent about handing over the gift personally. Valeria was instantly on edge. Her reaction was clear. She was worried and couldn't understand why strangers with their faces covered were so intent on giving her something. Her mind raced with fears, but she tried to convince herself it was probably just a misunderstanding. Despite her anxiety, Valeria didn't let it show in front of her clients. She focused on her work and decided that the best way to distract herself was by connecting with her followers. So she opened TikTok and started a live stream, chatting with her audience about the latest hair care products and trends in the beauty world. That day, Valeria was her usual upbeat self, showcasing new products that had just arrived at the salon and sharing her ideas for growing the business. The chat was buzzing. Questions, hearts, and words of support were flooding in from people all over. Valeria smiled through it all, trying to push away the unease she felt about the earlier visit. Meanwhile, a sense of quiet tension still lingered in the salon. Even though Valeria was doing her best to keep things light and positive, she couldn't shake off the memory of the men with the package. She asked her team several times to repeat what had happened, who had come in, what they had said. The worry stuck with her, even as she kept talking to her followers on the live stream. This marked the first chapter of a day that would soon turn everything upside down. Outside, it all looked normal. Work, live streaming, clients coming and going. But in Valeria's mind, there was already a growing sense of dread she tried hard to hide from everyone. That evening, around 6:30 p.m., the two men showed up at the salon doors again. At that moment, Valeria was inside, live streaming and talking to her followers about new coloring techniques and hair care routines. Her voice was calm and confident, and she was all smiles, sharing her excitement about future plans. None of the people inside the salon paid much attention to the two men lingering by the entrance. One of them held onto the motorcycle, while the other kept glancing around, scanning the area as if he was searching for something or waiting for someone. Valeria kept talking to her audience, and the number of viewers on her live stream kept climbing. Her phone was mounted on a tripod, capturing everything in the salon. In a moment that seemed to come out of nowhere, one of the men pushed the door open and stepped inside with a determined look. His face was covered by a mask, and he didn't look around. He just moved straight toward Valeria. Valeria's focus was on the screen, but when she looked up, she saw the man right in front of her. He asked her in a low, quick voice, "Are you Valeria?" For a moment, she was silent, then nodded and said, "Yes." According to investigators, that was the moment when the most dramatic part of the evening began. The man, without hesitating, pulled out a weapon. His movements were quick and precise, like he knew exactly what he was doing. The first shot rang out, followed almost instantly by a second. In the small salon, the sounds of those shots were deafening, and in the next second, everything seemed to freeze. The shots and the sudden quiet that followed seemed to merge into a heavy silence. The bullets struck Valeria in the chest and head, and she immediately fell unconscious. The salon staff, who had been caught in this nightmare, were frozen in shock at first. Erica, one of the stylists, was the first to react. She glanced at the phone, where the live stream was still going, and in a swift, silent motion, she shut it off, as if to stop the horrifying images from being broadcast to the viewers watching in real time. Her calm, almost mechanical reaction raised questions later. Why had she done it so quickly, without even flinching? But at that moment, no one said anything out loud. Everyone was too stunned. The women who had been getting their hair done just moments before screamed and recoiled in terror. Some jumped from their chairs. Others covered their faces with their hands and started trembling. The salon staff ran around in confusion, unsure of what to do next. One of them tried to check on Valeria, but it was immediately clear that she wasn't breathing anymore. The salon was filled with a dead silence, and every footstep, gasp, and muffled sob seemed to echo in the small space. A few minutes after the shots were fired, one of the staff members finally called emergency services. Soon after, someone else called the police. These calls were the first official reports of what had happened. But by that time, there was nothing anyone could do to save Valeria. Her body lay motionless on the floor, surrounded by people who couldn't believe that this wasn't just a terrible nightmare. It was real. Valeria's followers, who had been tuned in to her live stream, witnessed the entire scene as it unfolded. They flooded the chat with messages of support, trying to understand what was going on. At first, many thought it had to be some kind of prank or staged scene, but it didn't take long for the truth to sink in. It was real. Screenshots from the stream started spreading across social media, and the shocking footage began showing up in news reports. The man who entered the salon and committed the crime vanished as quickly as he had appeared. He didn't take anything with him. No cash, no phones, nothing at all. His sole purpose was to carry out this act and then disappear. As investigators would later confirm, he left behind no fingerprints or any other evidence. The entire incident took just seconds. Those moments changed everything, not just for the people inside the salon, but for the hundreds who had been watching the tragedy unfold live. Viewers who had been talking about hair care and upcoming appointments only minutes earlier suddenly found themselves witnessing a real-life crime. By the time the first reposts of the video started circulating on social media, paramedics had already arrived at the salon. They had been called right after the attack. When it was clear Valeria wasn't responding, the medical team quickly assessed her, but had to confirm that she had passed away. The attending doctors stated that Valeria died from gunshot wounds to her chest and head. News of her death spread rapidly across news outlets. Soon after, the police arrived. They began interviewing witnesses, collecting footage from security cameras, and documenting every detail. The area was sealed off, and no one was allowed to enter. Outside the salon, a crowd had gathered, trying to catch a glimpse of what was happening inside. Each new rumor spread like wildfire, fueling even more curiosity and speculation. At the same time, Valeria's family was notified of the tragic news. According to official reports, it was the police who informed her family. Her mother arrived at the salon shortly after and was met by law enforcement officers who explained what had happened. She found the salon where her daughter had been working just hours before, completely cordoned off. Inside were only the investigators and Valeria's lifeless body. Witnesses later said that Valeria's mother couldn't hold back her tears when she realized her daughter was gone. These painful moments, usually hidden from view, became part of the collective memory this time. Social media was filled with messages of sympathy, and words of support poured in from every corner, but none of it could change what had happened. Valeria's body was soon taken to the medical examiner's office for the required procedures. Since her death was treated as a criminal case, this step didn't need the family's consent. At the same time, speculation and theories about what had happened kept spreading across the internet. But for Valeria's family, none of it mattered. They had lost a daughter who had greeted the new day with a smile just yesterday. In the aftermath of Valeria Marquez's death, investigators quickly noted the absence of any signs of robbery. This strengthened the theory that the motive was to target Valeria herself, not to steal property or money. The men who entered the salon didn't try to take anything or search the place. Their actions seemed carefully planned. Find Valeria and carry out their plan without any unnecessary words or delays. This cold precision and the complete lack of any theft attempt immediately led the police to suspect that this was a contract crime. The use of a firearm, the mask on one of the attackers, and the way they left the scene without a backward glance, it all pointed to a carefully planned hit. The theory that it was a professional job became even stronger after investigators reviewed surveillance footage from the area around the salon. The videos showed the men appearing suddenly and leaving just as quickly, giving no one a chance to react. Against this backdrop, speculation about possible motives began swirling. Social media and journalists started floating theories about a possible connection between Valeria and the Jalisco New Generation cartel. Some reports claimed she was romantically involved with one of the cartel's key leaders, Ricardo Ruiz Velasco. According to these accounts, Valeria often received expensive gifts from admirers and showed them off on social media, which allegedly sparked jealousy or anger in Ruiz Velasco. Her public persona, her online activity, and her display of luxury items might have been seen as crossing a line. This theory suggested that the motive wasn't a personal feud or a crime of passion, but rather an attempt by the cartel to resolve an issue involving their honor and control over those tied to them. In this scenario, Valeria's death would be a chilling message. A warning that even popularity and social media fame couldn't protect someone from the cartel's determination to punish what they saw as a betrayal. Another theory that surfaced was that Valeria may have refused to cooperate with or failed to meet the demands of people tied to these groups. Although there was no solid proof or confirmed evidence linking her directly to any criminal network, the cloud of suspicion only grew. The media picked up these narratives and social media users quickly spread them, sometimes presenting speculation as fact. However, official statements from law enforcement emphasized that there was no evidence at that point directly connecting Valeria to any criminal organization. Investigators continued to look into all angles, but their priority was on the theory that someone had been hired to carry out this act. For them, the key question remained: who ordered this crime and why? Meanwhile, the response from authorities came swiftly. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum publicly offered condolences to Valeria's family and promised that the case wouldn't go unpunished. In her statement, she said that everyone involved in this crime would be found and held accountable. She stressed that acts of aggression against women must not go unanswered, and that the government would do everything possible to get to the bottom of what happened. Officials in Jalisco also confirmed that the investigation would be handled as a potential femicide case, which requires special attention to the motives and context of the crime. Investigators had already gathered witness statements and security camera footage and were working through every possible theory, from personal disputes to a targeted execution. Following the president's speech, there was a surge of calls from the public for a thorough investigation. Every day after Valeria's death, more and more questions emerged among those following the case. How could two strangers walk into the salon so easily and leave without anyone stopping them? Who gave them orders, and why was Valeria the target? Investigators were trying to find these answers, but while their work took time, the public was desperate to know the truth right away. After Valeria's death, her friend Vivian suddenly became the center of attention. She wasn't at the salon when it all happened, but her name kept coming up in conversations. Just hours before the attack, Vivian had sent Valeria a gift, a plush pig. Her messages in the chat had convinced Valeria to stay at the salon, promising there was another surprise on the way. These persistent messages raised red flags for everyone who knew about Valeria's final hours. When the two men showed up for the second time, Vivian was still messaging Valeria, urging her not to leave. For many, that seemed suspicious. Social media buzzed with speculation that Vivian might have known what was about to happen, or at least suspected that something bigger was hidden behind that innocent-looking gift. But it wasn't just Vivian who drew scrutiny. Erica, one of the salon's employees, also came under suspicion. After the shots were fired, she was the first to reach for Valeria's phone and shut off the live stream. That moment, captured in the live footage and in viewer comments, looked unsettlingly calm. Erica didn't scream or show panic. She just turned off the camera and put the phone away. People started asking why her reaction was so composed and whether she might have known something about the planned attack. These questions grew even louder when screenshots of conversations between Vivian and Erica began to circulate online. In these alleged chats, Vivian reportedly told Erica to turn off Valeria's phone at the right moment. One of the messages supposedly showed Vivian telling Erica not to be near Valeria, but to simply shut down the stream once everything had happened. Erica's reply in these messages sounded worried, but she agreed to the request. No one could confirm if these screenshots were real. They spread across different groups and pages, and even the sharpest-eyed internet sleuths couldn't say for sure whether they were genuine or faked. Still, just the rumors about these messages turned Vivian and Erica into central figures in the unfolding story. For many, it looked like a potential conspiracy. If the messages were authentic, they could prove that Valeria's friend and co-worker were part of the crime. On top of that, even more outlandish rumors began circulating. Some claimed that in the live stream footage right after the attack, you could hear Valeria's voice faintly saying, "Vivian." This moment quickly took on a life of its own. Short videos of this supposed voice spread online with captions like, "Valeria's ghost." Some said it was just a coincidence, while others believed it was the voice of Valeria herself speaking her last word from beyond. Neither the police nor any official sources had commented on the authenticity of the alleged messages between Vivian and Erica, and no one had confirmed the so-called voice heard in the live stream. These odd details, the plush pig, the chats, and the rumors, made the theory that Valeria's friends knew more than they were saying even louder. But no formal accusations were made. All these elements remained part of the public's version of events, picked up by the curious and discussed endlessly online. So, the circle of suspicion kept tightening around Valeria's closest friends. While investigators worked to gather evidence, the public argued over whether this was all just a coincidence or a carefully orchestrated plan, with everyone playing a specific role. At the same time, investigators were looking into potential motives linked to Valeria's personal life. One of the threads they pulled was a series of messages from her ex-boyfriend. These messages contained threats and insults. In one, he wrote that Valeria didn't know what he was capable of, and in another, that she would regret this someday. Some online commentators believed these words hinted at a possible motive rooted in personal revenge. But prosecutors later said that Valeria's ex-boyfriend was not considered a suspect in the open investigation. They stated that there was no evidence in the case files directly connecting him to what had happened. Still, his name kept coming up in the public's conversations, especially after screenshots of his threatening messages began circulating online. Soon, even more rumors started to swirl, focusing on Valeria's supposed financial and personal connections. Some social media users speculated that her luxurious lifestyle might have been tied to criminal networks. These rumors were fueled by pictures of Valeria posing on private jets and in high-end hotels. Images that, to some people, didn't fit with the idea of a small beauty salon owner. Amid all these swirling theories, the prosecutor's office released an official statement, making it clear that none of these claims from social media had been verified. They found no ties between Valeria and any criminal groups or cartel. The agency also noted that these kinds of rumors only distracted from the real investigation, pulling attention away from actual facts and evidence. Meanwhile, other theories about what happened started to pop up. Some said Valeria might have been caught in a random dispute or a misunderstanding. But every theory remained just that, a theory. Neither witnesses nor Valeria's close friends ever mentioned her being involved in any kind of criminal activity or dangerous connections. The media played a role in fueling these rumors. Reports with sensational headlines and eye-catching visuals spread across different platforms, often creating more confusion than answers. In their rush to grab views, some news outlets published contradictory information without properly verifying it, adding to the wave of speculation. Every new headline pushed people to wonder, what if there was a grain of truth to these wild rumors? In all this speculation, people seemed to forget the real story. Valeria was just a young woman trying to build a career and bring a little joy to her audience. All the talk about her supposed guilt was just speculation. Valeria's family tried to stay away from these rumors, knowing how easily truth and fiction can blur online. But they hoped the investigation would provide the answers needed to restore Valeria's name to what it truly represented. That of a woman who had dreams and ambitions, not someone caught up in a swirl of scandalous gossip. Valeria's friends, including Vivian, also found themselves under intense scrutiny. Their behavior and words raised a lot of questions, but no formal charges were ever brought against them. Vivian repeatedly stated that she had nothing to do with what happened. Erica, who was in the salon during the crime and shut off the live stream, also avoided speaking with reporters, preferring to stay silent. Investigators kept looking at several main theories, but didn't find any solid evidence that would justify charging anyone in Valeria's circle. For the community, this created a sense of anxiety and frustration. Many people were upset that no one had been named as responsible. Every day there were new posts and discussions, but the investigation kept its findings close, leaving the public in the dark. For Valeria's family and loved ones, it meant only one thing. Her life was cut short, and the person behind it all remained unidentified. In the end, the story of Valeria Marquez never got the answers it deserved. She was a young woman who was working hard to build her career and share her life with thousands of followers, and she lost her life while on a live stream. Even with all the intense public interest and endless speculation in the media, the case never reached a clear conclusion. This tragedy is a stark reminder of how fragile life can be, that even a person who seems to have it all together can be vulnerable to hidden conflicts and dangers. Valeria's family and friends are left living with questions that still have no answers. And for everyone who followed her story, Valeria's death remains a painful mystery, one with no clear explanations and no justice. Thanks for watching, everyone. Your support means a lot to me, and you can help my channel grow by hitting that like button, dropping a comment, and sharing this video. Your engagement really makes a difference. See you soon.